All right, so welcome to all you guys. My name is Chris Murphy, and I'll be your instructor for Major Fun this evening with data analysis with Excel. So I think you guys who signed up for the class already got the link for the workshop files. So if you haven't downloaded those yet, go ahead and it's not too soon to be doing that. Okay. So welcome to all of you guys. Before we get into the details here, let me just go over some background stuff here. So before we get into it, I actually kind of want to understand a few things about each of you guys. So if you could introduce yourself by name. I also want to understand a little bit about where you're at with Excel, what you've been doing with it, so we can gear this class towards your background and experience. And then I also want to understand what you guys want to get out of the workshop. So I've got kind of a hit list of stuff I want to make sure we cover, but I'm always happy to adapt the class to the kinds of things that you guys are most interested in. So why don't we go ahead and people who sit near the front here always get to start. You want to kick it off for us?
Sure. My name is Arlene. I have very little Excel experience for data analysis. Mostly worked with SPSS. So I'd really like to know how I can transfer some of those skills or maybe learn new ones using Excel.
Okay. All right, great. Arlene. Hi.
Hi, my name is Eve, and I have little Excel experiences, and I want to learn about data analysis.
Okay. That's what we're going to be doing tonight. So great. Welcome. Hi.
Hi, my name is Matilda. I only know some basic formulas about Excel.
Okay.
So I want to know more advanced formulas.
Okay, we're going to get into some formulas tonight. So great. Welcome. And you want to go next?
Hi, I'm Helena. I have very little Excel experience except for like when we use it in a table to write down the organic for politics and stuff.
Okay. Just making lists?
Yeah, just lists.
Okay.
Every now and then add something. But yeah, I just want to learn what it means to use Excel for data analysis.
Okay, great. Hi.
Hi, I'm Crystal, and
Crystal.
yeah, I also have like a little level of Excel experience in terms of like using the formulas about the average, the basic things.
Okay.
Yeah, and I do want to like learn more about what is data analysis
Okay.
actually means for Excel.
Okay, very good. Great. Welcome. And hi.
Hi, I'm Shreyas. I'm doing the graduate program at the master's program at Annenberg, doing communication management.
Uh-huh.
I want to take this course because apparently right now everything is data, and that's what runs everything. And I have an idea a little bit, but not exactly into the details.
Okay.
So
All right.
hopefully this should be helpful, obviously.
Cool. And what you say your first name is?
Shreyas.
How do you spell that?
S-H-R-E-Y-A-L. S.
Yeah, at the end? Okay.
Sharma. S-H-A-R.
A-R-M-A.
M-A.
Okay, got it. Okay. 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 Good. Great. Hi.
Hi, I'm Ikrar.
Hey, Connor.
Yeah, I'm first year for master program in public administration. Yeah, I have experience working in Excel.
Uh-huh. Okay. Hopefully we can fill in some of the holes for you.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Welcome. Hello, you want to go next?
Yeah, I'm Lily.
Hi, Lily.
I work with Excel in data coding, data management, and now I'm interested to learn about logical function or making charts.
Okay. Very good. And you want to?
Oh, hi, I'm Matt. I also have use basic functions of Excel. I want to learn how to handle larger data sets with Excel. See, cover that today.
Okay. Well, we're not going to try with the really large data set. Pretty good size stuff. Great. Hi.
Hi, my name is Mindy.
Hi, Mindy.
I used to work with Excel, not a lot, but quite sometimes for my coursework. But it's been a long time.
Okay.
So I want to freshen up on my areas and then prepare my job interviews.
Okay. A lot of jobs say you got to Excel. Yeah, it's tough to know. Good. Welcome. Hello.
Hi, I'm Hannah.
Hi, Hannah.
And I also have pretty little experience with Excel, so I'm kind of just looking to get a basic understanding. Like for an internship or something like that.
Okay. Hi.
I'm Jillian.
Jillian.
I'm interested in this class because I have very little Excel experience as well. I just want to group my skills. I'm doing SPSS right now for a
So we're just doing introductions. My name is Chris, and I want to know your name, what you know, what you want to know.
I am Micah Kempe. I took 2 classes in Excel, taking a class in Excel. I'm a real estate major.
Okay.
And I had 2 internship experiences with Excel. I just wanted to know more about Excel.
Okay.
School tricks and
okay. All right.
Because I'm doing a pro forma right now. I just wanted to know all the tricks.
Okay. All right. Good. Welcome, Mika. And you want to go next?
Hi, I'm Kenny.
Kenny.
I just took a stats course last semester. From one of my business classes. I just wanted to learn more about like the ins and outs of Excel. More about like maybe pivot tables or just like some basic function.
Okay. Well, we're going to do another workshop in pivot tables next month. So tonight we're not really going to get into pivots, but hopefully you'll join us for the next session.
Okay, sweet.
For that. Okay. Well, we'll cover hopefully some other cool stuff you can use.
Okay.
So let's see. So everybody, I think I got everybody right. Yeah. So let's go ahead and get into it. So again, if you guys just got here, we want to make sure you're downloading the sample files that we're going to be working with. So let me just kind of set expectations. Some of you guys saying you got a very basic knowledge of Excel. So this class is last semester we did Excel the basics, and then we did kind of a level 2 beyond the basics. So tonight we're going to really go beyond the basics. This class does kind of assume that you know some things. I'm going to try to adapt the class to where you guys are at here, but this is not going to be like right from the beginning in terms of Excel. Okay, so this assumes that you know a little bit about Excel. But I see that some of you guys, I see some Apple logos on some of these machines, and I also see some Lenovo logos on some of these machines. So some of you guys are running. How many of you guys are running Windows machine? So you got a Windows machine, so you're the only one here right now. So you know what? It's no big deal. I'm going to be doing the class here with a Mac, but 98% of the 2 programs it's pretty similar. Okay, so some of the things in the screen might be a little different with the PC version versus the Mac, but they're mostly the same here. So the first thing I wanted to get into is manipulating lists of information, doing analysis of a list. A lot of times in a business situation, or if you're doing journalism, you got lists of information, and you need to take all that detailed information and understand the big picture to summarize it. So Excel has lots of cool features for managing lists of information. So let's check some of that out. Get PowerPoint out of the way here, and welcome. Come on and join the party. Let's go ahead and just take a look at some basic sorting you can do in Excel. I'm going to go ahead and in the a folder of sample files that you guys have downloaded, one of the files is called sorting. So let's go ahead and just double click to open that up. Okay, let me maximize the window here, and I don't want to check for updates right now. So if you're managing a list of information, let me zoom in a little bit so you guys can see this a little bit better. If you're managing a list of information, first of all, the way you lay it out is important. We want to usually have a 1-row descriptive column heading, and notice how the way this data is laid out, we've got a blank row and a blank column all the way around it. So you'll get better performance with Excel if you just kind of leave the list on its own, and Excel is pretty smart about figuring out where the list is and so on. So here, if I just want to do some basic, really simple sorting, I can just click in the column that I want to sort on. So let's say I want to take these guys and list them or sort them by last name. I'm going to go ahead and click my cursor anywhere in the last name column here, and then there's a couple different places you can do sorting in Excel. On the Home tab, I can go over to the right, and I've got a sort and filter option. And so there's an option to just sort A to Z. So I click on that, and I sorted A to Z. Okay? And oops, there was a problem with Excel close. Uh-oh. That's not a good sign, is it? That's not a good start for the class. Excel just crashed on me. Thank you for playing. Let me go ahead and see if I can get back in here. That was not impressive. This is a loaner machine I'm using here, so I'm not sure what's going on. Excel save changes. Let's go ahead and open this quit unexpectedly. Okay, let me try that again. Okay. All right, let me see if the second time I do this it doesn't work a little bit better, and if it doesn't, I might have to, I've got a PC machine, I might have to switch over to that. But again, I'm going to click anywhere in the last name column, and then on the home tab, I'm going to try to sort again. I'm going to go to sort and filter and choose A to Z. Okay, and this time Excel didn't crash, so that was a good thing, right? So, the reason this worked, you guys, first of all, I clicked in the column that I want to sort on, and because the header row there is formatted differently, Excel kind of understands that should not be sorted. Sometimes if the header row is not formatted differently, it looks like the data, then that will get sorted. And then, you know, Excel is smart because it sorts the whole row. It doesn't sort just this column. So that's a real simple example of sorting. That sort command, as I mentioned, is in several places. You can also go to the Data tab, and on the Data tab, we've got the exact same commands. There's A to Z and Z to A, so you can do it there. So what if you want to sort on more than one column? Okay, so to do that, on the Data tab here, I can click on the Sort button, and that opens a dialog box here. And in this dialog box, it remembers the sort order that I had specified here, and then I can go ahead and add another level. So I'm going to sort by last name, and then I'll sort by first name, for example. Okay, and click on OK. So if I had more than one person with the same last name, it would subsort by that name. So that's pretty basic sorting in Excel. Okay. So you can also, with Excel, filter the data, and there's a bunch of different ways to do that. To filter the data, again, that's a command that's both on the Home tab. If I go back to my Home tab, you can see over on Sort and Filter, there's an option for filtering. So if I go to the Home tab and I click on the Filter command under Sort and Filter, what that'll do is give me a drop down at the top of each column, and I can use that for sorting or filtering. So for example, if I just wanted to see all the employees I have here in the marketing department, I'll click on the drop down, and you can see this dialog box gives me options for sorting as well as filtering. Okay, so a bunch of different ways to filter. Here I'm going to go ahead and turn off the Select All checkbox, and then I can just toggle on the checkboxes of the items that I want to be able to see here. So I'll just go ahead and toggle on the checkbox for, actually turn off Select All. Oops. And then I'm going to turn on Marketing here. Okay, and so now I'm filtering and looking at just the people in marketing here. And notice as you do your filtering, in the lower left corner of the screen on the status bar, it's giving you a count of how many items meet the filter criteria that you're specifying. Okay, so we're just kind of getting warmed up. These are some basic ways to analyze data. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close this sort box here. Okay, and if I want to, if in this case I'm sorting or filtering on the department column, you can see there's a little icon at the top of that column. That funnel icon is a visual cue that I'm filtering. So I can click on the drop down there again, and if I want to get back to everybody here, I'm going to go ahead and just turn on the Select All checkbox again. Okay, and close out of here. All right, so if you want to get rid of the filtering, you can just go back up to Sort and Filter and toggle off the filter checkbox. Okay, so that's some pretty basic stuff. Now, if you're really going to do, if you're going to manage a list of information, you can use the basic sort and filter stuff, but a really cool feature that's available in Excel is the table feature. And tables are really cool in Excel for a bunch of reasons. First of all, tables let you do some really nice formatting of a list of information. And also, they automatically add the sorting and filtering features. So lots of cool things we can do with tables. So check this out. With my cursor anywhere in the data, and again, this is going to work because I've got a blank row and blank column all the way around it. So Excel is going to be pretty smart about knowing where my the table data is. So there's two different places you can go to turn this list of information into a table. One place you can go is click on the Insert tab, and on the Insert tab there's an option for Table. So if I go to the Insert tab and I click on Table, that opens up this dialog box, and based on my cursor position, where my cursor is, Excel makes a guess. Everything out to the first blank column and the blank rows is everything that's in my table. So it shows me that, and it also notices the top row looks different, so it guesses that we have a header row up there. Okay, so if Excel doesn't guess correctly, you can always go over and highlight the data. But if your list doesn't have any blank rows or blank columns and you have space around it, it's usually very good about guessing where the table data is. So did you have a question or comment?
Is there a way to select all of them at the same time?
Select all of what at the same?
All the data points, because I don't want to scroll all the way down all the names.
Well, in this case, it actually, based on my cursor position, it guessed where everything was. So it's guessing all the way down to row 500. So hold that thought, though. You want a way to highlight all the data? Yeah. Okay, so hold that thought for a minute. Actually, let's talk about that for a minute. Let's go ahead and back up a step here. So first of all, when I'm creating a table, Excel just guesses everything out to the first blank row and first blank column. So here I've got 500 rows of data. It's already highlighted all that. But let me cancel that for a minute and answer Mika's question. So cancel out of here, and what you're saying is you want to highlight the whole thing.
I know you can do it, but I don't know
so there's a keyboard shortcut for everything. So you guys got, somebody take a crazy guess. If I told you there's a Command key shortcut that you could press to highlight all the data, what would be easy to remember to select all the data? What would Control A, Command A, yeah. So if you just bug your cursor in the middle of this data and you press Command A, is that what you wanted?
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah.
That's cool, yeah. So some of you guys are talking about, Matt, you're talking about huge data sets. That's a cool trick to be able to highlight the whole thing. If you want to highlight this whole thing to copy it somewhere else or do some formatting, yeah, Command A on the Mac and Control A on the PC. And that's one of those commands, Mika, that you can use in other programs too. So for example, if you're in Microsoft Word and you press Command A or Control A on the PC, that highlights all the text in your entire document. So if you had a 100-page document, that's a cool way to highlight all the text. So that's usable in other programs as well as Excel. So yeah, but to do a table, I don't even need to have it all highlighted. If I just click again back in one individual cell, and then again if I go to the Insert tab and click on Table, Excel basically grabs the same data that I did with Command A. Okay, so it's guessing everything down to row 503 is where my data is, and I've got this header row here. So this is all good. I'm going to accept this and just click on OK. And cool, that's a table. So the first thing it does is do some really nice formatting, okay, of the data. So, and then another important thing that just happened to you guys is that a new tab showed up that wasn't there before. See that table tab? That's what they call a contextual tab. That table tab only shows up when you're in a table. So check out what I mean by that. Go ahead and click over in a blank cell over to the right and see how your table tab just disappeared. So sometimes people say, I can't find my table tools. Where did they go? Well, you just got to click back in the table. If I click back in my table, then the table tab shows back up again. Okay, and there's some really cool stuff that you can do with tables. Like I mentioned earlier, one of the cool things you can do is do some nice formatting. So check out on the table tab here over on the right side, there's a bunch of different styles. And those are predefined formats. So I can click on these different styles and see some go some different looks here. So I'm going to guess you SC people all want to be in like red is good for you. Does that work? Okay, and then you probably like gold between the red. Okay, all right. So yeah, the blue is for those guys. The powder blue is for those guys over in Westwood, right? So I'll go back to, but the default actually, it automatically goes to blue when you turn it into a table. We'll change it into more Trojan colors. Is that better? Okay. So yeah, and the problem is there's like too many choices for the table styles. If I click this down arrow here, look at that. There's a whole bunch of different styles that you can work with. So and so we got the light, the medium, and then if you really want to use up large quantities of color toner, we've got these dark options here, which I think are probably overkill in most cases. But lots of different choices. Okay, and you could even, if you seriously did want to come up with the Trojan colors here, you could create a new table style that had whatever colors you want. So you can define your own styles for the table. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'll stay with this medium red there. Okay, another thing that I like about tables, especially when we're working with large data sets, if you scroll down, unless you specify otherwise, you're going to lose the header row there. But check this out. If I move down in this table, as I move down the list here, watch what happens. See the header row stays on screen, so no matter how far I go down, I can still see the names of each column. So that's some cool behavior for a table as well when you're managing a large list of information. Yeah, go ahead.
When I scroll down, my header list doesn't stay on the.
Oh, let's see. Did you turn it into a table?
Yeah.
Let's see. No. Oh, you're outside of the table. Click in the table. Click in the table. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So again, you got to be in the table. So you get a different behavior when you're outside of the table. Okay. Another one of life's mysteries solved. Okay. So and we haven't discussed it, but you guys are sworn to secrecy about how easy this is to turn it into a table. So if you do a spreadsheet like this and they say, wow, that's a really nice looking spreadsheet, it must have taken a long time for you to format that, you can't say, it was just a table, I did it in about 2 seconds. You just accept the compliment, say thank you, and don't give away all your magic tricks. Okay? So the formatting is a really cool part of tables, I think. All right, and there's some other cool things you can do quickly with a table. On the table tab here, you notice there's a checkbox for banded rows. So that's what those alternating colors are. Those are banded rows. I think it looks pretty good. It makes it easy to read the table, but if you don't like that, you can turn it off. I'll temporarily turn off the checkbox for banded rows. And then if I wanted to quickly format the first column or the last column, I just turn on the checkbox and it does some formatting. So I can turn on the first column and turn that off, and I'll turn on the last column and turn it off. So it just is a quick way to do some formatting. I can also do banded columns, so alternating colors for the columns. Okay, I'm going to turn that off, and I'm just going to go back to banded rows. So it also, we got this filter checkbox that's on, so the filters automatically are turned on, whereas when we were working with this as a list, we had to turn on the filter, but the filters are already switched on for tables. And then a really cool feature that I like to use in tables, a lot of times we're trying to summarize data. Check out this checkbox for total row. If I just turn on the checkbox for total row, cool, look at that. It automatically adds a row at the very bottom, and it creates a formula to give me a grand total for the last column there. Okay? You guys doing okay? Can I help?
I just missed that.
Say again?
I just missed that last one.
Oh, to do the total row? Yeah. So all I did is I went up on the table tab there, and I just turned on the checkbox for total row. So you're just one click away, Hannah. Okay. All right. So that's pretty cool. So the default behavior when you turn on the checkbox for the total row, it assumes that you want to do a calculation on the last column. And if the last column of information is numeric, it'll assume that you want to get a sum. If the last column of information is non-numeric, it'll assume that you want to get a count of those items. But check this out. You can change the type of calculation you're doing really easily. So I'm going to go over, I'm going to go to the salary column here, click in the total row, and when I click in the total row there, look at that, I get this drop down arrow. I can click on the drop down arrow and I can change the type of calculation I'm doing really easily. Okay, so if I want, instead of knowing the total on the salaries, if I want to get the average salary, it's just one click away. I just click on that and cool, there's my average salary. Okay, so it makes it really easy to analyze data. And you can also do calculations on other columns than the last column, you guys. So, for example, I want to get a count in the department column. I'm going to go to the department column and click in the total row. I get a little drop down in that column. And here I'm going to go ahead and say I want to get a count of how many items I have. So I'll choose the count function. Cool, it tells me I got 500 people up there. Okay, so I'm doing some really pretty powerful analysis without having to write any formulas. I'm just hitting a few check boxes and drop downs, right? So I'm going to jump back up to the top of this list here. Let me just scroll up to the top here. And, you know, we talked earlier about doing filtering in a list and doing sorting. So all that stuff is built into the table. So, for example, remember earlier I wanted to see just one department, and I filtered on that. So check out when I do that in a table. I'm going to go to the department column, for example, and in the dialog box here, I'm going to toggle off the select all checkbox, and then I'm just going to turn on, I'm going to pick the accounting department, for example. So when I click on that department, cool, look, let me move this dialog box out of the way. Look what happens there, you guys. It filters like we did before when we had the drop down, but also my calculations down in the total row are dynamic. So now I can see I've got 19 guys in the accounting department. I can see I was calculating an average salary. Let me change that salary column back to the sum function. Okay, so just by doing the total row and changing the type of calculations and then doing some filtering, I'm doing some pretty powerful analysis. Okay, anybody have any questions on what we're doing here or need any help with that? How many of you guys have been using tables before? Okay, so the rest of you guys just wish you knew about it before. That's right. All right, so any of you guys who have been using tables, if you've got any cool tricks you want to share, don't hold back on us, okay? So anyway, tables are I think a really handy feature in Excel. So we can do the sorting, we can do the filtering, we can do calculations, we're doing formatting. Another, you know, these days it's important not to just have the right answer, but to have the right answer look nice, right? So the formatting here is really important. Let me tie this in with something else in Excel that in all the Office programs that I want to make sure you guys understand in terms of controlling the formatting of your overall spreadsheet. So there's this really cool feature that comes with all the Microsoft Office programs called themes. And themes consist of colors and fonts, and if you're doing graphics or charts, also special effects like shadows and so on. So imagine you're working on a project where you're doing multiple Excel workbooks, and maybe you're even also doing some Microsoft Word documents, and maybe you're preparing some presentations in PowerPoint, and you want all those documents that you're putting together to have the same look in terms of colors and fonts. So you want to use themes. Themes are consistent across all the Office programs. So you may not realize it, but every document that you create in all the Office programs already is using a theme. Unless you specify otherwise, the default theme that you use that is used in new documents is called the Office theme. But you can change the theme, and that will change the overall look of your document. So check that out. I'm going to go to the Page Layout tab. And on the Page Layout tab over on the left side, we've got themes. So if I click on themes on the Page Layout tab, I get a drop down that shows me a bunch of different themes that are available. So if I go ahead and I'm gonna, like I said, the Office theme is the default theme. If I just click on one of these other themes, see how I've changed the look of this document really quickly? So that changed the fonts and the colors, okay? And that will affect not just the table, but that'll affect the entire document. So did you notice, by the way, that it changed not just the table, but even the column headings at the top? So it changes everything in the document. So the themes it'll always respect, if you've done some formatting on specific cells, when you change the theme, it won't override that. But if you have not done formatting on a specific cell or a range of cells, it will automatically format that for you. So it's a really powerful way to format an entire workbook. So I can, again, part of the problem is once I change themes here, there's just too many options here. So I'll go ahead and try, like, for example, the facet theme here. Go with something kind of green. So that changed my fonts and my colors. And so you've got these basic themes that come with the program, and then you can also mix and match on that. So I can say, I like this basic theme that I created, but I want to maybe play with the colors. So I can go with the color option here. And there's a whole bunch of predefined color sets that you can choose from. So maybe instead of that green thing, I'll go with red orange. Okay? And we'll try some other ones. There's a long list of different options that are available here. So you can try some different looks. Okay. So I can pick some different colors, and then I can also pick some different fonts. I'll click on the fonts option here on the page layout tab, and they've got these different font families, so you can try some different options here. I'm going to go, I like Franklin Gothic is a nice strong title font. I'm going to go ahead and click on the Franklin Gothic one here. Okay, so that changes the look of the document again. So I took a basic theme, and then I mixed and matched some different colors, and then I also modify the themes. Now, if I wanted to use this modified theme that I just created in other documents in Excel or any of the other Office programs, I probably want to save this theme. So on the page layout tab, I'm going to go back to themes, and check that out. I can choose save current theme, and I can give it a descriptive name. It's going to save it in this special themes folder that is shared by all the Microsoft Office programs. So I'll be able to reuse this in other Excel documents, and I'll also be able to use it in PowerPoint documents and Word documents. So I'll go ahead and I'll call this I'll call it my USC 1 theme here. Okay. All right, and I'll just go ahead and click on save. Yes, sir.
Is there a way to change the header color and then the below thing?
Change
Or the first, last department, that row?
As part of your theme?
Yeah.
You know what? If you go in, you can go in, and if you go to colors here and choose down at the, you know what? Actually, for themes, I don't know there is a good way to do that, to be honest with you. But as part of the theme, it kind of, that comes with it, yeah. Yeah, you could manually do that, and there's some other style things we can do, but within a theme, I don't think there's a good way to do that easily. All right, so but now that I've created this theme, if I click on the themes here, you can see that new theme that I just created shows up as a custom theme. So that'll be available, like I say, for other Excel documents that I'm creating, and then I can also use that in my Word documents and in my PowerPoint documents. So themes are a pretty cool feature that ties together with tables very nicely, and the theme will impact any charts that you create or any other graphic objects. If once I've created this, once I've modified my theme here, if I go back when I'm in this table, if I go back to the table tab and I look at my table styles, the table styles are modified. The table styles are completely different than what they were before because I changed my theme. So I've got different variations of that. So kind of going to your question about changing the header, I guess if you come back and change the style of the table, that would affect the header there. And then actually for table styles, if you click on new table style, this is actually for a table. This is actually where you can define the different pieces of it, the different components. So this lists all the, so you can't change it in the theme, but you could change it for the table here. So I can specify any of these different pieces here. So you can specify the first header cell and some different options. There's an option for the header row, so I could click here and then go format and then modify that to whatever options I want. So yeah, so not within the theme, but within the table you can do that. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead. You can get really deep into this stuff here with the formatting here. I'm going to go ahead and cancel out of here for right now. And I'm going to, I don't want to create a new table style. Some of you guys may want to explore that, designing your own styles. But for right now, I'm going to go ahead and cancel that out. There's even an option here where you can set this as the default table style when you create new tables. All right, so anybody have any other questions on what we're doing with working with Excel's tables features to do sorting, to do filtering, to do our formatting, to do calculations? Yeah, go ahead.
How do you select two different columns? Like if you wanted to select like last name and salary?
So you want to select those without the stuff in between? Mm-hmm. So if you click on the first column and you use the shift key, you click on the last column, you can get all of those, right? So shift lets you click on the first item and then shift click on the last item and you can get everything in between. So if you want to select non-adjacent items in Excel, you can click on one and then use your control key to click on the other one. Oops, actually on the Mac, is it command, excuse me. On the PC it's control, on the Mac it's command, and sometimes I get my wires crossed between the two platforms. Did you try that? Mm-hmm. So yeah, and that idea works not just for columns, but for anything. So I click, out in the spreadsheet here, if I click in a blank cell, then I hold the shift key down and I click in a diagonal location, that highlights all those cells. And if I click on one cell and then I hold the command key on the Mac or the control key on the PC, I can select non-adjacent cells that way using the command key. So that works for columns or cells. Okay. Any other questions on what we're doing so far, or anything we're not doing that you're wondering about? No? Okay, so I'm going to click away from this and I'm going to unfilter the data here. I can see I've got a filter with a funnel up there. You can actually filter on multiple columns here. I'm going to go ahead and click anywhere in the data, and then if I want to get rid of the filters I've got here, a real quick way, especially if you've got multiple filters going, is to go to the Data tab. And on the Data tab, I'm just going to choose the Clear option to clear the filters I've got. And that just gets me back to the entire list. While we're talking about the table features, and we're talking about table styles, and we're talking about themes, another idea that I want to put in the back of your mind to make some really nice looking spreadsheets, we have styles for tables. We also have styles for cells. And cell styles let you do some really quick formatting. Let me just give you a quick idea of that. I'm going to go ahead and, first of all, I'd like my title here to be centered across these columns. I think I'm going to highlight from cell A1 over to cell E1, and I'll use the merge and center command on the home tab to get that text right in the middle across my list there. Okay, so I want to take this, I want to do some formatting of this title in terms of colors and fonts, and so you could of course go on the home tab to use some basic formatting here. And you do that manually, but check out on the home tab, you guys, over toward the right, there's an option for cell styles. So if I click on cell styles, I've got a whole bunch of different styles I can apply. And these styles are tied back to the theme that you're working with. So there's a whole bunch of predefined styles. You can modify those, and you can also create new styles if you want to. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll choose, for example, the accent 1 style here. Okay, so that automatically applies some formatting to the cell there. Okay, so that's a really quick way to do formatting, and it allows you to be consistent Okay, so and the bigger your spreadsheet is, the more you want to use this kind of stuff. So let me demonstrate a little bit more about the power of using styles, cell styles. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click over in a blank cell over on the right here, and I'm just going to type some stuff. I'll literally type the word stuff. Okay, so I want this stuff to look just like my title. So it's going to be easy. I'm going to use the same style. So I'll go back, instead of having to remember what color I used, what font I used, I'll just use the same style. I'll go back to Cell Styles, and I'll use the Accent 1 style. So those two cells look exactly alike. Okay? Now, so that gives you consistency. And then the other cool thing about styles is, what if I want to change the appearance? If I hadn't used styles, I'd probably have to go back and touch each of these items to change the formatting. But because I used a style, I can just redefine what the style settings are, and Excel will change all of the cells that have that style. So check this out. On the Home tab, I'm going to go to Cell Styles, and then if under the drop down for styles, I'm going to point at the style that I want to change, and instead of doing a left click, I'm going to do a right click. And one of the options I get in the shortcut menu that appears is Modify. So I'm going to choose Modify, and that'll open up this dialog box. And here you can see a list of all the different formatting options that are controlled by a style. So numbers, alignment, font, border, fill, and protection. You can see the style that I'm working with right now only is controlled by the font and the fill. Okay, so I think I'd like to change maybe the color or the font. In this Modify dialog box, I'm going to click on the button marked Format, and that pops me into this Format Cells dialog box. So instead of just formatting one individual cell, I'm formatting all of the cells that have this style. So I'll go ahead and click on the Fill tab here to change the background color. And is that pretty close to Trojan Red? Should be a deeper crimson color. Should we go deeper than that? I'll go back. I'll go over to this. Like this is a crimson color here. Okay. Is that kind of it? Hannah says yes. Okay. All right. So I'm changing that to just to try to keep you guys happy with appropriate colors here, right? So I changed the color there, and then I go ahead and I could change any of these other parameters for the style. But check this out. When I OK my way out of here, and then OK the Modify dialog box. In this simple example, I've changed both my title at the top there, which I didn't even touch, and this other item. So this is just a super simple example, but if you've got a really big spreadsheet, this is a kind of a real strategic way to do some powerful formatting. Okay. All right. So let's see. I think I'm going to go ahead and save this file. And I think we've got a lot of other stuff we want to get into tonight, so I'm going to go ahead and open up another file. So I'll go ahead and anybody have any questions before we wrap up what we're doing here with tables? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and I think I'll just close what I'm working on here right now after I've saved it. And let's see, let's go ahead next and talk about Excel's subtotal feature. So subtotals are another cool feature that you can use to analyze data without actually having to write any formulas. So I'm going to go ahead and open up this subtotals file that we have in our practice folder. And I'll max out this window. So here's an example of a list. It kind of looks like a table, right? But it's really not a table. It's just a list. They've used some nice formatting here. So let me zoom in a little bit so you can see what we've got going here. All right, so I'm using the Command down arrow key to quickly jump to the last row. So I click in my data and I press Command down arrow, and that jumps me down to the last row of data. Well, actually, not the last row of the spreadsheet. It'll jump me down to the last row before there's a blank line. So when I get a new spreadsheet that somebody else has created, one of the first things I want to know is, how much stuff is in this spreadsheet, and I'll click somewhere in the list and press the control down arrow or the command down arrow to quickly move to the last row here. And then if I want to move back up to the top of the range, I'm going to hold the command key and press the up arrow, and that jumps me back up to the top. So I've got the 999 rows of information here, and I'm trying to get a handle on the big picture here. So I would like to know, for example, what my total sales are by region. Okay, so like everything in Excel, there's always more than one way to do stuff. But one cool way to aggregate the data or summarize it is with the subtotals feature. So before you subtotal, you use the subtotal feature in Excel. Before you do that, you gotta sort the data on the column that you want to do a subtotal on. So I want to do a subtotal by region. So I'm going to click in anywhere in the region column. It doesn't matter where, and because my header row is formatted differently, Excel won't sort that as part of the data. And then once I'm in the region column on the Home tab, I'm going to go over to Sort and Filter, and I'm just going to sort by region A to Z. Okay. So once I've sorted the data, now I want to get subtotals by each of the different regions I've got here. So my next move is going to be to go to the Data tab, and on the Data tab, over on the right side, check out the subtotal command. So I click on subtotal, and it opens up this dialog box. So Excel kind of guesses what I want here. It guessed that at each change in whatever's in the first column, the date is in the first column. So it'll always guess that you want to summarize the data by whatever's in the first column. Yes, sir?
My subtotal button is grayed out.
Oh, did you turn a bit? Did you turn your list into a table?
Yeah.
So that, okay, I should have mentioned that. Yeah, you can do tables or you can do subtotals, but you can't do both. So now what you might want to do is go back to the so you like tables? You just went there right away with the new data here? Okay, so I don't blame you, but for whatever reason you can't do the two of those things together. So what you might want to do is click in the table, go back to the Table tab, and look over on the left side. There's an option to convert to a range. Okay. So if you choose convert to a range, then I think you'll see that the subtotal feature is enabled. Okay, so yeah, so when you do subtotals, it assumes that you want to aggregate the data by whatever's in the first column. That's not the way we want to group the data. We've got it sorted by region. So I'm going to go ahead and change the where it says at each change in, I'll modify this from date to region. Okay, and then I can choose what function I want to summarize the data on. So I'm going to leave it at the sum function, and then I can also specify which columns I want to add up. Okay, so it is always, the subtotal feature is always going to assume that you want to aggregate the data on whatever the last column is. So it assumes that I wanted to add up by the total sale, my last column here. Okay, so at its simplest, I can just click on OK, and Excel aggregates the data. Check out what happened on the left side of the screen here, you guys. It's grouped the data together by region. And I've got these buttons near the upper left corner of the screen. So if I, instead of looking at all 999 records, if I just want to see my subtotals by region, near the upper left corner of the screen, I can click on the button marked 2, I should say. And cool, it just collapses the whole thing, and it's got my subtotals for each region and then my grand total. Okay, so that's kind of handy. And then if I wanted to drill into the data and take a closer look at the details underneath one of those regions, I can just click on the plus button to the left of one of the regions, and it expands out and shows me the details. Okay, and then I can click on the minus buttons to collapse that up again. Oops, jump back up to the top here. Okay, and if I click on the button marked 1 in the upper left corner, it just collapses, so I'm looking at just my grand total. So you can drill up or drill down. Okay, I'm going to go back and I'm going to look at all the detail here. I'm going to click on the level 3 here. So I'm looking at all the detail here. So you can also use the subtotal feature to get subtotals by multiple columns. So to do that, let's say here, for example, I wanted to see my subtotals by region, And then within each region, I want to break out by each of my sales reps. Or maybe I want to break out by each product by region. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead. Actually, let me demonstrate this. I'm going to go back and before I aggregate the data on multiple columns, I'm going to turn off the subtotals for a moment. So I'm in the list here. And on the data tab, I'm going to go back to my subtotal command. And in the subtotal dialog box, I'm just going to click on the remove all button to get it back to where I was. Okay, so now we're back to where we started. So now, like I was saying, I want to get a total by region, and then within each region, I want to get subtotals for each of my sales reps, which are in column C. So I've already got my data sorted by region. I want to do a subsort by rep. So remember, when we want to do multiple sorts, we can't just use the A to Z or Z to A. I'm going to click on the sort button on the data tab. And right now I'm sorting by region. I'm going to go ahead and bug on the plus button here to add another level. And after I'm sorting by region, I'm going to say then by rep. Okay, so I'm sorting by one field and then the other. And once I've got my sort levels going here, I'm going to go ahead and click on OK. Okay, so now I've got the first zone and all the reps within that zone sorted together. Okay, so now that I've sorted on two columns, I'm going to go back and I'm going to use the subtotal feature again. So on the data tab, I'm going to click on subtotal, and it remembers my last setting here. It remembers that I was sorting by or subtotaling by region here, so I'm going to leave all these settings as they are. Okay, and then click on OK, and we're back to where we were. Okay, now within each region, I also want to subtotal by rep. So I'm going to go back on the data tab and click on the subtotal command again. And I'm going to change it so it says that each change in rep, I want to use the sub function, and I'm going to do for total sale. What I want to make sure I do in this case is turn off the checkbox to replace current subtotals. I want to keep the subtotals I had there and just add another level of subtotal. So I'm going to toggle off the replace current subtotals and go ahead and click on OK. And now, check it out, over in the upper left corner, I've got another level of subtotals. So now if I click on the number 3 near the upper left corner of the screen, it collapses it down and I can see each zone, but I can also see my subtotals by reps there. Okay, and again, you can use the plus and minus buttons to expand and collapse the list there. Okay, so I'm going to go back, and anybody have any questions or need any help on the subtotals? Yes, sir.
I didn't get 1, 2, 3, and 4.
You did not?
I did not.
Okay, so I'm going to guess. I'm going to go back to subtotals. Is it possible when you did the second time, is it possible you didn't turn off this checkbox to replace? You did turn that off?
Yeah.
Okay, let me take a quick look. See, I'm not sure what's going on. Let me see if I can up and away the magic wand. Figure out what's going on here.
So everything, all the subtotals.
Okay, yeah. So we're starting all over again here.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's do first. Let's change in. Let's do first region. Go ahead and okay that. Okay, so now you got that. Now let's go back again to subtotals, and I'm change to rep, and then yeah, you got to turn it off there. Okay. Yeah. Okay. There you go. All right. Yeah. It's like when you take your car into the shop, it doesn't make a noise when you bring it to the mechanic. Right? Yeah. Okay. Let me see. What's going on here? So. Okay, so this looks all weird, doesn't it? Let's go click in the list, click anywhere in the list, and let's go ahead and just get rid of, let's go ahead and just remove all. Okay, and let's see. First, let's sort on the region. So let's go, let's do this, let's go to sort. You actually don't even, you know what, I think I see what's happening. Don't highlight that column, just click in one item in the list. Then go to sort, and we're saying, okay, then we're going to say sort by. Click in the column there. We want to sort by region. Good. And then let's add another level. And we're going to go then by rep. Okay, that. You got it. Okay. Now the data is sorted, and then we're going to go back to the subtotal. Just change the region, total sale. That looks good. Go ahead and click on OK. So now you got that going, and then let's go back one more time to subtotal, and then we're going to change this so it's by rep. And total sale, you got replace turned off. I think you should be able to click OK. You should be going. Yeah, there you go. Click on the buttons up there. You should click on the number 3. Yeah, there you go. See how you're able to get it by. So I'm going to guess, I think, just to share, I think what may have happened there is Excel's pretty smart about sorting, but I think what may have happened in that case, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the subtotals that I've got here, you guys. I'm going to go back to the Data tab, and on the Data tab, I'm going to click on Subtotal, and I'm going to use the Remove All option here. So it's kind of tricky. I think sometimes people think I've got to highlight all the data before I do a sort. So you know what I think is happening there? You highlighted column D, and then you did a sort. I think it was just maybe just sorting just that column and not the other column. So if you just have one cell highlighted and you do a sort, it assumes you want to sort everything out to the first blank column and the first blank row. If you highlight the data, it'll assume you want to just work on just that data. So you got to be careful what you have selected there. You guys doing okay with it?
So after the region one, you press subtotal, and then how did you get the rep to sort?
So okay, so how did I get the rep to sort? Yeah. Okay, so what I did there on the Data tab, I went to the sort option, and there you can add as many levels as you want. So I did a sort by region, and I hit the plus button to say then by rep. Okay? And then after I did that, then I was able to use the subtotal feature. Okay, sure. All right, so yeah, subtotals are kind of a cool feature to quickly, again, we're doing this without having to write any formulas. We're just clicking on a few check boxes, and no formulas required. All right, so I've removed the subtotals here. Anybody have any other questions on subtotals or need any help on what we're doing here? All right, so another really cool feature, especially if you've got large data sets, is a feature called conditional formatting. So let me show you that. So we talked earlier about how we can use themes and styles to control the formatting of a document. So conditional formatting lets you set rules. You can say based on certain conditions, I want cells or rows or whatever to be formatted differently, and that's really cool for being able to quickly find anomalies or pieces that stand out in the data. So for right now, I'm going to go ahead and close this subtotals file. I'll just go back to the File menu and choose Close. And I'm not going to bother saving the changes here. We don't need to save those. We're not going to use this file again. So I'll click on Don't Save. And back in the folder for today's session, in the Data Analysis with Excel folder, I'm going to go to the file called Conditional Formats. Let's open that file up. Okay, and let me max this out. So here we have some sales information, and again, let me zoom in so this is easier for you guys to see. Okay, and this is not a huge data set, but I want to quickly be able to analyze what are my best selling items or least selling items. So I'm going to go over to column G, and I'm going to highlight all the numbers in column G except the total. I'm not going to use the grand total on line 13, so I'm highlighting everything from row 3 down to row 12. And then once I've got the data that I want to format selected here on the Home tab, I'm going to click on Conditional Formatting. And when I click on Conditional Formatting, there's lots of cool rules that we can set for conditional formatting. I'm going to check out the first one here, the Highlight Cell Rules. So I want to see all the numbers in that column. I want them formatted differently based on the numbers that are over a certain value. So I'm going to go ahead and click on greater than. And it puts me in this dialog box where I can choose different styles here. I'm going to go ahead and just leave this a classic. And I'm saying format the cells that contain anything that's greater than. Okay, and then I can click in the box to the right here, and I can type the value that's going to be the threshold value. So you can either hard code a number here, or you can click in here and then click on a cell that you want to use that's driving that. In this case, I just want to see all the all the sales guys here who had sales over 18,000. So I'll just type in 18,000 in the box there. Okay, and I can the default formatting is it's going to be red here, but I can click on where it says format with. I can choose a bunch of different formats. I'm going to go ahead and leave it at the default light red, and then I'll go ahead and click on the button marked OK. And cool, the items that are over that value just pop out at me. It's really easy to see them at a glance. Okay, so with really large data sets, I think that's particularly a handy way to view the data. And you can actually apply more than one rule to the data. So I'm going to go ahead and say everything that's over 18,000 I want to show in red. Everything that's under 18,000 I want to show in a different color. So I'll go back to conditional formatting. I'm going to go to highlight cell rules, and this time I'm going to choose highlight cells that are less than. And I'll go ahead and type in my threshold value here, cell value less than, I'll type in 18,000. And then instead of having that red, I'm going to change the color of that to green. Okay, and click on OK, and now I've got my column G looks like Christmas. Yeah?
For some reason, mine just had all of them red.
Let's see. That's weird. Let's go back to conditional formatting. And let's clear this. Let's start over. Let's just try it again. What happened? You know what? Is it possible that you applied the rule more than once? We're gonna do a little troubleshooting on, and we're gonna take a look at how we can explore the settings in a little bit more detail here. But I'm not sure what happened before, but it's working now. So I'm not sure what's happening when I come over and walk over toward your machines. It seems like the computer works. Okay, so all right, so it's all good. So so I did everything that's over a certain amount is one value. Everything that's under a certain amount is another color. So that's kind of cool. You know, the other thing is you can tie this together with filtering and sorting. So check that out, you guys. I'm going to click in this list, and I'm going to go back to what we started with. I'm going to turn on the filtering here. So I'm going to go over to the sort and filter option on the home tab here, and I'm going to toggle on the checkbox for filter. Okay, now I've got the drop down at the top of each column. Check that out. I'm going to go to my grand total column and click on the drop down. And here, instead of filtering by values or sorting, whatever, notice there's an option to filter by color. So I can say filter by color. I'll click on the drop down. I can say show me just the stuff of a certain color here. I'll say I just want to see where the cell color is green. So that's kind of cool. You can use the conditional formatting and then do filtering on that. Okay, so tying several of these pieces together is kind of a cool way to be able to analyze large data sets. And again, the bigger the list is, the more you want to be able to summarize this. Say that it. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and clear the filter here. So what I did there is, first of all, did you see how we just went back and turned on the sort and filter, right? And then once I did that, I just went to the drop down at the top of that column. Once I've turned the filtering on, I just went to the drop down, and in the sort and filter dialog box here, I went to the section where it says filter. I went to by color. I just clicked on the drop down. I can choose cell color, and it'll show me all the different filtering options that I've applied to that column, and I just pick, this time I'll just do rows. Okay, so I apply this conditional formatting, and then I do filtering based on that. Okay, and I'll go back, and I'm going to, in the dialog box here, I think I'll just choose the clear filter option. All right, I'm going to close this filter dialog box, and I want to get rid of, if I want to find out, now I've applied several different rules to the data here, and I want to, maybe I want to make changes to the conditional formatting I'm doing here, or maybe I want to just find out what the settings are. So I'm going to go back to conditional formatting, and in the conditional formatting drop down, check out the last option here, manage rules. If I click on that, it'll open up a dialog box here that shows me the rules, and right now it's showing me I have those cells highlighted, so it assumes that you want to see the rules for the current selection. It shows me all the rules that I've got here, and then I can click on the drop down. I can say, okay, I want to see all the rules on the entire sheet. Especially if you get fancy, you can do all kinds of formatting throughout the sheet. So if I want to see all the formatting, I choose this sheet, and it would show me all the settings I've got. Okay, so here I can see what the settings are. If I want to make modifications to the colors here, or I can choose what range I want to apply that to. I can also edit what the settings are for the conditional formatting by clicking on the Edit Rule button. So I'm going to click on one of my rules, then click on the Edit Rule button, and it takes me back into the dialog box where I set up the rule originally. So if I want to make modifications to it, this dialog box is an easy place to edit this. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and cancel out of here for right now. And I'll close this Manage Rules dialog box for the moment. Actually, before I do that, one thing I should mention here is that sometimes you might get a whole series of different really complex rules. So you can control which rule you want to apply first. In this dialog box, I can click on the rules and change the order that they're evaluated here. So I can click on the down arrow key to move this down. And then sometimes you might have more than one rule that applies to the same data, and there's an option here over on the right, stop if true. So I can say, if this rule is true, don't evaluate the rest of the rules, just stop evaluating right there. So you can turn that stop if true is on. So those are a couple of other subtle things that you can do to fine-tune the conditional formatting rules for your data here. I'm going to go ahead and just cancel out of here for right now. And I want to just get rid of all the formatting rules here. I'm going to go ahead and start all over again. So I'm going to go back to conditional formatting, and I'm just going to choose the clear rules command, and I'll go ahead and say I want to clear the rules from the entire sheet, and that gets me back to plain vanilla. Okay, so some other cool rules we can do here. I'm going to go ahead and highlight my numbers in column G again, and let's explore some of the other conditional formatting rules we can set here. So with my numbers in column G selected, I'm going to go back on the Home tab to conditional formatting, and I can choose like top bottom rules. So check that out. So I say I want to see I can say I want to see the top 10 items, for example. So I'll go top bottom rules, choose top 10, and it assumes that you want to look at the top 10, but you can change that to whatever you want. So if I just want to see the top 3 items highlighted, I'll change that top 10 to top 3. And you could actually say, instead of looking at the top 3, I want to see the bottom 3, the worst 3 sales too. So, and again, you can change the formatting to one of the predefined options, or you can do your own custom formatting, format it any way you want. Okay, so I'm just saying here I want to see the top 3 highlighted in red here. I'll click on OK, and it shows me those. And you know, the conditional formatting is dynamic, so if I change the values, it's going to automatically change the conditional formatting. So check that out, you guys. If you click in column G, we haven't really talked about it, but you can see in column G they're using the sum function just to add all these different products together. Right? So if I change the values for one of these products, it's going to change the conditional formatting. Let's say, for example, I'm going to go to my first item here, my first number in cell C3, and let's say instead of 275 for the first guy there, let's say that he sold 5,000. So I'm going to change that number in cell C3 from the current value to 5,000. As soon as I type that in, that's actually, it's not enough to get him over the top here. Let me type in like a big number here. I'll type in like 25,000. Okay, so as soon as I type that in, that changes the total over here, and that changes the conditional formatting. So as you change the input values, you can see those numbers change dynamically. So that's kind of cool. So lots of other ways to interpret the data. Here, the cell is either one color or it's another color. I'm going to go ahead and let me undo that numeric change I just made. And I'm going to go ahead and remove the conditional formatting again. Again, I'll go back to conditional formatting on the Home tab. And I'm going to go to clear rules from the entire sheet. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and highlight my numbers in column G again. And some of you guys were talking about doing charts. You can actually do graphics with a type of chart with conditional formatting. They call them data bars. So check that out. I've got all these numbers highlighted. Instead of either having it one color or the other color, try under conditional formatting in the Home tab, try the data bar option. So I can choose data bars, and there's a bunch of different color schemes here. Pick whatever color you like. I'm just going to go with, well, for yes, you guys, I'll go for red. Okay, just to be consistent here. Okay, so I'll click on red here, red data bars, and cool, look at that. I've got just a way to just scan the data, and I can just tell at a glance the largest numbers. So that's a really easy way to interpret numbers here. And so, you know, you look at too many numbers and your eyes kind of glaze over, but you just look at a graphic like that, and it just kind of jumps out at you. Okay, I'm going to undo that, and let's experiment with a few other conditional formatting rules. I'll just use the undo command to clear that formatting really quickly. And I'm going to go back to conditional formatting. They've got data bars. There's also this color scales, and to me, honestly, color scales are like the least useful. Here, I'm going to choose color scales, and I'll just pick the first color scale. And that looks kind of pretty, doesn't it? But what does it mean, right? So it's like, what is it? So what does red mean? What does green mean? So that's not really intuitive. So I wish with these color scales there was some kind of legend at the bottom. It automatically gave you some kind of legend to tell you what each of these colors means. But you know how to find out what the colors mean. If we go after I've applied the color scales, if I go back to conditional formatting, and then I go back to manage rules, I can see this color scale here. I've got it selected. I'm going to click on the edit rule button to find out what the heck those colors mean. Okay, so it's basically saying the lowest values are red. Everything in the middle range is from 50% up is the midpoint, and so they've got these colors specified here. So here you can choose what the values are. You can also change these or actually make reference to specific cells if you want to. But honestly, the color scales kind of look pretty, but they're, I think, the least intuitive of these. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel out of here, and I think I'm going to go ahead and cancel out this whole thing and just go back to conditional formatting, and again I'm going to clear the rule from the entire sheet. I think my favorite for the conditional formatting are the icon sets. So if you haven't checked that out yet, with the numbers in column G highlighted, go to conditional formatting and check out icon sets. So we got all kinds of cool icons here that you can use to color code stuff here. So I'll go ahead and I'll go with the kind of the stoplight looking here, the traffic lights. Okay, so that creates a kind of a highest numbers are green, the mid numbers are yellow, and the lower numbers are in red. And again, to find out what the settings are for that, or to change the settings, you can go back to the rules manager, conditional formatting, manage rules, and then click on the edit rule button, and you can see, so what's happening here is the top third percent is going to green, the middle third goes to yellow, and the bottom third goes to red. But you can change those values to whatever you want to. Okay? All right, so I'm going to go ahead and cancel out of there. And again, I think I'm going to go ahead and close or get rid of the rule that I've got going here. So I'll go back to conditional formatting and choose clear rules from the entire sheet again. Okay, so yeah, the conditional format, a lot of this stuff, it just helps people interpret the data and be able to find the important stuff here. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, no, I think yeah, it's one or the other. Yeah, yeah. So you can pick one set or the other. You can't mix and match those together. Yeah.
Because when I open the manage rules window, it has two.
But yeah. Let me see what you. Yeah. So yeah, I think you can only use one icon set at a time. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So let's check out another cool trick here. Now, right now, are you guys doing okay? Can I help? So good. Okay. So here we're kind of we're using these for conditional formatting here, you guys. We're using all these kind of off-the-shelf options here. Let me show you a cool trick where you can actually create a custom rule. Okay. So to do this, here's where I'm going with it. I've got this list here of all this information. Notice over in column I here, I've got the region here. And if you click where it says Eurozone in column I here, when you click there, there's a drop down arrow. And if you click on the drop down arrow, it shows some different regions. Okay? So how do they, first of all, let's talk about how do you get a drop down list like that in Excel? Okay, does anybody know the trick of that? How could you get it? When you click in a cell, you want to let people choose from a list. How would you do that? So I'm just going to kind of make sure you guys understand how this was put together. So there's a very cool feature in Excel, you guys, called data validation. And with data validation, you can set rules for what goes in a cell. And you can also control, like, if you want to drop down. So to find out how this was put together in cell I3 here, click click where it says Eurozone in column I there, and then go check out the Data tab. If you go to the Data tab, over to the right here, there's an option for data validation. So check out in the Data tab, click on Data Validation, and when you click on Data Validation, look at this. It takes you to this dialog box, and look what somebody's done here. They've specified that the source for this cell is a list. So when you first start out in Excel, people can type any value they want in a cell, but look at all these different rules I can set for what people can type in a cell. I can say they can only type in numbers, or just decimal values, or just dates or times. So you can control what goes into cells, and this is really useful. Sometimes you might want to send out a spreadsheet for other people to fill in, and people never do what you ask them to, right? They type in text where they should type in a number, they type in date where they should type in text, and so here you can kind of say, okay, the only thing I'm going to let you put in this cell is this value. But what they've done here, you guys, is specify that they want to only allow a list, and then check out what they've done here. They've typed in the values they want to show in that list. So they just type Eurozone, US, and international, each one of them separated by comma. So each item separated by a comma will show up in the list. Okay? And so there's lots of other cool little tricks we can do here with that, but that's how they got this going. Yeah?
But if you have the full data, how do you convert it into something like this? Is it done through data validation?
I'm sorry, repeat the question.
I mean, like in the previous file that you opened, it was all together, right? It was one sheet itself.
Yeah.
So how do you convert that into this?
So I'm still not clear on what you're asking.
Okay, fine. I'll ask you after.
Okay, yeah. Let's follow up after class. All right. So, but yeah, this is a cool data validation feature. So if you guys haven't explored this in Excel before, I'd encourage you to. This is a whole really cool feature that I think some of you guys might be able to take advantage of. So that's what's going on here. They set this data validation up. Now I'm going to cancel out of here. And I want to create a conditional formatting rule that says whatever I choose from the drop-down list, it's going to highlight not just the region over here, not just the stuff in column B. I want to highlight the entire row for that region, for that item. Okay. So to do that, we're going to create a custom conditional format here. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do is just highlight all the cells that I want to apply this rule to. So before you do conditional formatting, you always have to select the cells that you want to apply the rule to. So here I'm going to click in cell A3 where I've got the first guy's name, and then I could drag across to highlight the data. But remember, you can always use the shift key as a way to highlight a larger data set. So I've clicked in one corner. Now I'm going to hold the shift key down on my keyboard, and I'm going to click in column G on row 12. So I've got all my rows except for the grand total selected here. Okay, and I want to write a conditional formatting rule for these rows. So now I'm going to go back to the Home tab, and on the Home tab I'm going to go to Conditional Formatting. Okay, and instead of choosing one of the preset rules we have here, I'm going to go ahead and click on where it says New Rule. And when I click on New Rule, I get this new formatting rule here, and you can click on the drop down, and there's a whole bunch of different rules you can set for this. So you can choose, actually, you know what, I misspoke here. I've got my wires crossed a little bit. So there's some conditional formatting rules that you can set on the PC that you can't do on a Mac. So on the Mac, there is not a rule where I can format for the whole thing. I can't do a custom rule. You can choose one of the basic rules here. So unless I switch over to my PC, I can't actually show you how to do that here. So like I was saying earlier in class, you guys, the PC version of Excel and the Mac version are very close, but there's two differences. So I'm embarrassed to say that I was going to demonstrate something here, but then I just realized I'm doing this on a Mac, and you can't do that with the Mac version. So let's scratch that idea here. But at least you guys know how to do the data validation here. So let me cancel out of here. And next session maybe I'll run a Mac and a PC so I can demonstrate that. Okay, so another cool feature that I want to talk to you guys about tonight, a different way to visualize data and do analysis. You know, I always just think anytime you can see a graphical view of something, it helps you understand it. And I just think that all of us, as we get used to looking at stuff on our phones and our tablets and our HD TVs, everybody's getting more visual, right? So if you can give people a picture, they can understand the data rather than just give them a bunch of numbers. So Excel has got a lot of graphics tools for charting the data. And one of the really cool features that they've added in Excel are called Sparklines. So Sparklines are little baby, I call them little baby charts. It's a chart that fits in one cell. And especially when you've got large data sets and you're trying to get your head around what's going on, instead of creating very large charts, creating these Sparklines is a really powerful feature. So check this out, you guys. I want to get a feel for the sales for each of these items visually. So instead of creating a chart somewhere else in the spreadsheet, I'm going to go ahead and click over in column H here, just to the right of my numbers here for the first guy. Okay, and from here I'm going to go to the Insert tab, and on the Insert tab over to the right, there's this cool feature called Sparklines. So I'm going to click on Sparklines, and I get some different options on the different kinds of sparklines. I'm going to start out with just a line here. So I click on line, okay, and that opens up this Insert Sparkline dialog box. So it wants to know where is the data that you want to plot. And so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to highlight from cell C3 all the way over to F3, okay? And then it assumes that I want to place this little sparkline that I'm going to create in the cell that I had selected, which is an H3. Okay, so the data is in C3 through F3, and I want to see this little chart or the sparkline in H3. So check out, if I click on OK, that's a sparkline. It's a little tiny little chart in the cell. Okay, and notice, just like when we were working earlier with tables, I've got another contextual tab there. So that Sparkline Design tab only shows up when you're in a cell that's got a sparkline. And there's lots of, just like the tables, there's lots of different options for formatting the sparkline here. So I can choose different styles here. And again, the styles are going to be driven by the theme that you're using in the document. So I can click on the different styles to change the colors here. And then I've also got some check boxes to toggle on the high point or the low point. So or put markers on different items here, so you might want to play around with that. Okay, put little markers on at each point here. So there's three different kinds of sparklines, and in most cases I find the line sparkline looks the best, but check it out. You can change the different kinds of the items here. So instead of a line sparkline, I'm going to go ahead and click on the column option, and that just creates a little column chart over there. The win-loss is really only makes sense when you've got some negative and some positive numbers. So, you know, like for a stock market chart or something like that, it might make sense. If I click on that here, because these are all positive numbers, that doesn't really tell me anything. So it's only if you've got some negatives and some positives, that positive numbers, that you want to use win or loss. But I'll go back to the line option here. Okay, and then I'll go ahead and I'll take that sparkline I created for the first guy, and I'm just going to drag that down to the other rows. And cool, now I've got a bunch of little sparklines, and I can get a feel, get a visual on the trends for all the data here just by looking at that. So yeah, go ahead.
Is there a shortcut for not dragging?
For not dragging?
Yeah.
You know what? For sparklines, there is not. So I think with a sparkline, you have to drag. But if you've got if it's numeric information, if you've got data in an adjacent column, Mika, you can just point at the fill handle there and do a double click.
Okay.
So if I did, so let me just demonstrate. What's that? Yeah, if I undo this, and I'm going to undo this and clear out the data completely here. I'm just undoing everything I've done here. Go back to, I don't want a sparkline here anymore. I did a bunch of, so here if I've got, let me get this column out of the way and search something here. So if I type in a number here, right, or a formula, whatever, yeah.
Mine won't let me drag it down.
Say that again?
It won't let me drag it down.
The sparkline?
Yeah.
Okay, let me just finish the thought with his question, and then I'll come and help you troubleshoot that. But so the question was, is there, instead of dragging all the way down with a large data set, is there a quicker way to do it? So with sparklines, you do have to drag down, but with formulas and numbers, if there's data in an adjacent column, instead of pointing at the fill handle and dragging all the way down like that, I could just point at the fill handle and do it. Make sure you get the plus in the lower right corner. Just do a double click, and it just copies down. So you could do that with 1,000 rows or 5,000 rows. So that's, yeah, for formulas or numbers you can do that, but you cannot do that with for whatever reason it doesn't work with sparklines. Okay, so let me go back and let me yeah.
How do you do spacing? Like how do you make everything?
The column width?
Yeah. How do you
okay, hang on one second. I want to follow up on Hannah. Did you say that yours? Let me take a look and see if I can help you. Okay, so click on the first one there, and then you can get on the lower right corner. There you go. Yeah. So you got to be in the lower right corner to do the copying. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, same question.
Okay.
Drag it down is the same Sparkline.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's weird. Let's do a let's go ahead and do an undo here. Let's go ahead and just clear that out.
Maybe just similar of the same.
Yeah. No, the numbers should be. I think yours look different. Yeah. So let's go ahead and just you know what? Let's just go ahead and let's go back to the Sparkline option here and yeah, exactly, clear. Yeah. Let's go ahead and try it again. So go ahead and well, actually, you know what? I'm going to take
With the brand total mix.
Yeah, that's what's happening. Yeah, that's what's happening. Click over in column H. And then let's go ahead and go to Sparkline. Good. And now first highlight the data, but don't, I think he's right, don't highlight the grand total. There you go. Now drag that down. There you go. Yeah, because so when we're plotting each individual item, it's different than when you get the grand total in there. The numbers are really similar. Okay, so let's see, and then I'm sorry, Mika, you had a formatting question on adjusting column width is the question?
Adjusting column width.
Okay, so to adjust a column in Excel, you can put your cursor on the divider bar between the column headings, and you can click and drag left or right to manually change them to whatever you want. I can make it as wide or as narrow as I want, right? If you want to do an auto fit, so you want to make the column just wide enough for the widest item, you can just point at that divider bar. Instead of dragging left or right, do a double click. If you double click on the divider bar, it will just make it just wide enough for whatever the widest item is.
Yeah, but how do I do it for multiple?
Just select all the columns before you do it. So if I want to do all these columns, I would highlight from column A. Like I've got a bunch of them here. I could point at column A and drag all the way over, or I could use the shift key and click over here. And now that I've got all those columns selected, I can manually change all of them. I can drag them and make them as wide as I want, or I can point at the divider bar between any two columns, double click, and that will auto fit all of them. So yeah, in most cases, you want to do all of them in one shot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's double click is the trick.
Okay. Double click and shift.
Well, shift is the way I like to use that a lot to select multiple items. So it's really cool for selecting multiple cells or multiple columns. So yeah, using shift to select all the columns I want to modify. Again, I could have just pointed at column A and dragged all the way across, but a lot of times you got a huge number of columns, and instead of dragging across 26 columns or whatever, just click in one column, scroll over, and click in the other, and with the shift key, and you've got a lot more control. Yes.
We wanted to change the column width, but for an infinite amount of columns. Can we do that?
Say that again now.
You wanted to change that width, the size of the column, but for an infinite amount of them?
Infinite number of columns?
Yeah. So instead of just highlighting a certain amount, if you just want the entire spreadsheet.
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, there is not an infinite number of columns in Excel. There's only 16,000. So okay. So there is a limit, but 16,000 is hopefully more than you're ever going to have to deal with. So yeah, if you wanted to select the column, you can click on the column heading. If you want to select an entire row, you click on the row heading. If you want to grab all the data, in the upper left corner at the intersection of the column and row headings, they call that the select all box. And if you click up there, then you've got everything selected, and now you've got all 16,000, I can't remember, 16,000 and something, and then there's over 1 million rows. So now you've got the entire spreadsheet selected. If you want to adjust the width of your columns, you want to change the font, you want to copy everything in the spreadsheet to somewhere else, they use that select all button. So yeah, I can adjust 16,000 columns in one shot. Okay, so but not an infinite number of columns. Okay, all right. So who's got any other questions or comments on what we're doing with? We took a look at Sparklines, and I got rid of my Sparklines. So Sparklines are kind of a pretty fun little feature for graphically visualizing stuff. Okay, and in addition to Sparklines, we can do more traditional charts. So let's take a quick look at doing some basic charts here. So instead of doing the Sparklines, I want to present my grand totals here. So I wanted to get a feel for how each of these sales reps contributes to the grand total. So I wanted to plot out, I want to use the rep names that are in column A and their grand totals are in column G. So there's another example of where we're going to use the shift key to select two non-adjacent ranges. I want to be able to plot out the names and then the numbers. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight all my sales reps in the names in column A from A3 down to A12. And then after I've got the sales reps selected, I'm going to hold the shift key down on my keyboard. As I hold the shift key on my keyboard, I'm going to click and drag over my grand totals. I'm sorry, pardon me. I meant to say the shift key lets me select the first and last and everything in between. If I want to select two non-adjacent sections, it's the command key on the Mac and the control key on the PC. Sorry, don't mean to make life more confusing than it needs to be here. So I'm going to try that again, okay? I'm going to go ahead and highlight the sales reps in column A, and don't hold the shift key, Chris. Hold the command key down or control key on your PC there. And then I'll click and drag down to highlight their numbers over there. So I want to pick up their names and the numbers over there. So once I've got those ranges of data that I want to plot to create a chart from that, I'm going to go to the Insert tab. And on the Insert tab, I've got lots of different kinds of charts. Now, one of the nice things they've done with more recent versions of Excel, instead of just choosing a chart, sometimes you're not sure which chart you want. There's an option for recommended charts. So that's kind of cool. I can click on recommended charts, and Excel will give me some suggestions and show me some different looks here. So it shows me a clustered column or a clustered bar. Actually, I don't want either one of those, but it just gives you a preview of some different options that you might want. If I'm trying to understand what percentage each of these items is of the total, the perfect chart for that kind of thing is a pie chart. So, and I just had dinner just before I came to class, so I feel like some little pie for dessert, right? A pie chart for dessert would be tasty. So I'll go over to pie chart there and click on that, and they've got several different flavors of pie chart. They've also got donut charts. So I was teaching an Excel class a while ago to a group of guys from the LA Sheriff's Department, and I couldn't resist as I was showing them charts, and I said, we're doing charts, and I go, oh, look guys, a donut chart. And this big dude in the front of the room, he's like the lieutenant, like he's the boss guy. It's like, and he just said one word, he said, careful. It's like, so apparently cops like donuts, but they don't like jokes about donuts. So if you ever get pulled over, I would suggest not making any donut jokes. So anyway, I backed off right there. I said, never mind. Anyway, I digress here. We're talking about charts here. So if you wanted to have a donut chart, go ahead. I think that 3D pie chart looks pretty tasty there. I'm going to go ahead and choose the 3D pie chart. So I click on that, and cool. There's my chart there, and I've got a nice visual of what percentage of the total each of these guys contributed. And just like when we were working with the tables, and like when we're working with the Sparklines, I've got some new contextual tabs up there. So I've got the chart design and the format tab. I'm going to drag this chart over to get it off of the data here. I'll just drag it over to the right a little bit. And there's lots of cool things you can do with a chart. Just like we were talking about with the tables, we've got a bunch of different styles. So you can click on the drop down here, and they've got lots of different looks for it. So you can hover over these and click on the different looks there and get some formatting, get some nice looking formatting pretty quickly. So I'll just click on some different options here to see what I've got here. It's a nice kind of beveled look there. Okay, so a bunch of again, part of the problem is there's too many choices with some of this stuff. Okay, and this one's a little busy. Let me go back to where I was here. So I'm going to go back to the most basic layout where I started here. Actually, that's not where I started. Go back to the very beginning here. So you can choose these styles. There's also this cool feature over on the left here for quick layouts, and you can spend a lot of time manually tweaking the chart out here, but these quick layouts are just a really, as the name suggests, a fast way to change the look here. So I'm going to experiment with some of the different quick layouts here. So here's one that shows me the percentage each guy represents of the total. Okay, so just really makes it easy to change the look of the chart here by using the quick layouts. And then, you know, just like we had with the tables, we've got some different color options. So I can click on the change color options here, and they've got some different color schemes that you can choose from. So if you want to go with something that's kind of monotone, monochromatic, or brighter, you can choose some different options. And these are all driven by the theme that you're using in your spreadsheet. So if I go back to remember where we went, where did we go to change the theme for this document? Page layout. So I'm going to go to the page layout tab, and I'm going to change the theme here. This is another, I was using themes in the other document. I haven't really played with the themes in this conditional formats option. I'm going to go to custom themes. Oh, look, there's that USC 1 theme that I created in another document. I want to use that for this project, so I'll go ahead and click on that, and there you go. We got our SC colors back there. So see how I was able to take that theme that I used in a previous spreadsheet and reuse it here. So that just kind of goes back to that whole thing, and that changed the list I have up here, and it also changed my chart. Okay, anybody have any questions on what we're doing with charts or sparklines or conditional formatting or any of this stuff? Nobody's got any questions or comments? All right, let me see. I'm trying to think what else we want to touch on here. I think maybe with the I've covered, I think, the kind of the big pieces that I wanted to take a look at with you. I think I want to spend maybe a little time here at the end working with some logical functions. Okay, so we haven't really done any formulas at all in the class tonight, but I wanted to maybe for our final thing here spend a little time doing some conditional logic. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I think for the moment I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this pie chart here to just kind of clean things up a little bit. Okay, so I'll just delete that. And I think what I wanted to do for the last piece here is show you how we can write a function. And you guys may know that functions are formulas that are built into Excel, right? And there's hundreds of functions that come with the program to do all kinds of analysis. And so what I want to show you is one of the logical functions that's built into Excel. And I want to say if a certain condition is true, I want to show some text in a cell. Okay? So have any of you guys used the if function in Excel? Some of you, yeah. So not to put you on the spot, Mika, but do you have an example you could share with us about where you use it?
We did a stats class. It's like count if this happens, then
yeah.
What?
Yeah. So with the if function, so there's a bunch. So you're talking about the count if function. There's a sum if. There's a bunch of conditional functions that are built into Excel. What I want to do right now is take a look at the if function itself. So the if function has got three different parts. The first part of the if function is some kind of logical test, something that's going to be true or false. Okay, so I can say, is this number greater than this? Is it less than that? Or whatever, okay? And then I can, based on whether that condition is true, I can say if that condition is true, I want to do this. I can say, do this calculation or show this text in a cell. And then I can, the third part of the if function is, what do you want to do if that condition that you've tested is false, if it's not true? Okay, so here I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say for all of these guys in column G here, I'm going to figure out a bonus for them. Okay, and the deal is if they sold over $10,000, then I'm going to show a bonus over of an extra $1,000 over in column H here. Okay, If they didn't sell over $10,000, if their grand total is not over $10,000, they don't get a bonus. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and add a new column to the right here. I'll just type in bonus, press enter, and now I want to create my if function for the first guy here. So I want to say if his total sales in column G is greater than $10,000, then I want to show a bonus in this column. Okay, so with functions, if people who use these functions all day, every day, they just type them in off the top of their head. But if you don't use a function every day, let me show you a way that you can look it up and get some help with it. So check this out, you guys. I'm in column H here. I want to use the if function. So let's go to the Formulas tab. Click on the Formulas tab. And on the Formulas tab, there's this cool feature called the function library that organizes all the hundreds of functions that are available in Excel by category. I want to do some logical analysis, so I'm going to go on the Formulas tab and click on where it says logical. Yeah, Mika.
How do you add another column?
How do you insert a column? The easiest thing to do is just to right click, and there's an option to insert. So just do a right click and insert if you want to add a new column. Yeah, I guess I had done that earlier. Yeah. So with my cursor where I want to see the bonus for the first guy, I'm on the Formulas tab. I'm going to go to the logical category in my function library. I click on logical. I get a drop-down list of all of the logical functions that are available in Excel. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the if function. And in the PC version opens the dialog box, and on the Mac version it opens up this formula builder, which is cool because it kind of walks you through the steps of building the function. Okay, so I can just fill in these text boxes with what I want. Down below it gives me a description of what this function does, and then it shows me the syntax. It tells me what the different parts are here of it. So the first thing it wants to know is a logical test, anything that's true or false. Okay. So I want the logical test I want to find out is the number in column G greater than 10,000? So in the logical test box here, I'm going to click on the grand total for the first guy, and then I'll type in greater than 10,000. Okay, so that's my logical test. Now I'm going to go ahead and click in the value of true box. And what do we want to do if that test is true? If the guy's sold, if his grand total is greater than $10,000, here I could go ahead in this cell. I could type in some text if I want to show some text in the cell. If I want to show text, I have to put that in quotes. I could also do a formula. I could say, okay, if he got over 10,000, let's calculate a bonus based on what the total amount is. In this case, I just want to show a number in there. So if he sold over $10,000, let's just say he gets a $2,000 bonus. So in the value of true, I'll type in 2,000. Okay, so I do this test. If the test is true, do this value of true. And then I want to test out if that logical test is false, then in this example, he doesn't get any bonus. So we're just going to type in 0. Okay? So check that out, you guys. I'm filling in the dialog box, but look up on the formula bar at the top there. In the formula bar at the top, it's actually building the function. So, people, like I said earlier, people who use Excel all day, every day, they just type in that function up on the formula bar off the top of their head. But if it's not a function that you use all the time, using this formula builder is a really handy way to build some of the more complex functions in Excel. So that's it. I'm going to go ahead and press enter, and I've got my function. Okay, and so the first guy doesn't get any bonus because he didn't sell over 10,000. But if I go to the bonus for the first guy and I point at that fill handle in the lower right corner, I can just double click and copy that down. And so you can see all the guys that are made over $10,000 that shows the bonus rate in there. Okay, so that's one example of the if function. Does anybody have any questions on that? So here's another cool trick with functions. I'm going to go ahead and close the formula builder for a moment. And I'm going to go ahead and click back in a cell that has my if function. And let's pretend that you didn't build this function. Let's pretend you just got the spreadsheet from somebody else and you've never heard of the if function before. So you don't want to have to go over to the guy who created this and say, I don't know what the if function is. Could you explain it to me, right? So you don't want to let them know that you don't know about that. So here's a way that you can reverse engineer a function like this. If I want to teach myself, what does the function do? So we know it's a function in Excel because all the functions, just like the sum function, they always start with the equal symbol. Then we have the name of the function, and we've got some stuff in the parentheses. So they all have that kind of that same general structure or syntax. So we know it's a function. So if you wanted to find out what this function does, if you didn't know what this function is about, or if you wanted to make changes to the function, check this out, you guys. Just go click in the cell that's got the function in it, then go up to the formula bar, point at the FX button and click, and look what that does. That just opens up the formula builder. So even if you didn't know what this if function does, by being able to open the formula builder, you can see a description of what it does and what the syntax is. So that's kind of a cool way to reverse engineer a function that's in a spreadsheet that you get from somebody else. So now instead of going over to the guy who built this and having to ask him what does that if function do, you can just act like you knew that all along. Like, yeah, go ahead.
How did you get it to open? Because when I clicked on it, it just says if logic. Do I click up logic test?
So to open the dialog box?
Because it just explains which each one of them is.
Yeah.
To open the dialog box.
So yeah, okay, so yeah, so all I did here to get the dialog box to open up, I just go up on the formula bar and I click on this FX button. Or actually, you can also, there's an FX button, the insert function button up on the ribbon there. You can click on either one of those. Did that open up for you? Mm-hmm. So that's kind of cool, right? So you can teach, so instead of having to go and ask the guy who did it, what does this do, you can act like you knew that all along, right? What the if function does. Okay, and then, for all the functions, honestly, sometimes I read some of these help screens here, and it's still not clear. If you wanted more detail on this function, you can also, in the function builder, there's also this link here for more help on the function. So if I click on that, that's going to open up a dialog box, and it's going to help me look up the different functions. So I can go to help topics here and find out more about some of the different functions that are available. I can go to all functions and just look up any of the functions that are available. I can click on I for if, and there's a bunch of different functions here. So there's the if function right there. So I can click on that, and it shows me detailed information about that function. Okay. And for some of these, they've got videos that you can learn more about them. And they've also, for all the functions, if you go to the help screen, they've got lots of cool examples. So that's a really good way to learn any of the functions that are available in Excel. Sometimes if I read just a description, it doesn't make sense, but if you show me an example, it makes it easier to understand here. So they've got like several different examples, and it just walks you through how to use that function. So you've got these for all the different functions in Excel, not just the if function. So like I mentioned, there's over 450 different functions available in Excel 2016, and so this is a cool way to learn any of those functions. I'm going to go ahead and just close this dialog box here. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close the Formula Builder dialog box too. And who's got any other questions on anything we've been doing here? No? So no questions means like 100% comprehension, or that you're just so totally confused you don't even know where to start asking questions? I'm always a glasses half full kind of guy, so I'm going to assume that it's all making sense. So I think we're going to wrap it up for tonight. We're right about a wrap-up time here. So hopefully you guys have some new cool tools in Excel that will help you analyze and interpret data and make more sense of it, and make some nicer looking spreadsheets too, with some of the cool features like styles and themes. And so you sometimes it's important not just to have the right answer, but to make it look nice, right? And sometimes I find that it's more impressive to have it look nice, even get the wrong answer, right? So you get extra points for neatness.